Trump didn't actually compete. He didn't do any of the debates.
Yeah.
He didn't. I mean, the only time he addressed people was via Twitter, and that is just not a
Twitter or Truth Social.
But it was okay.
Truth Social.
So he didn't even do one debate, right?
No, he didn't do any
Nothing.
debate. Yeah, no, he
Nothing.
didn't. Where, like in Kenya, we have people who are called men in black. I know you might not be familiar with that, but yeah, these are people who disrupt elections in a convention.
What
like if someone is not, if let's say like Annette is a candidate we want to win, and we realize the way things are going, she's not winning. There are these people who are planted strategically to disrupt everything. Throw down all the.
Typical.
Now, but the candidacy, of course, with all those endorsements that came in thick and fast right after Biden stepped down, there was no competitive process. So why was the party's establishment and President Biden so fast in moving to endorse her? Were they trying to prevent, other people from coming up? Because that speed was not usual. Because stepping down, to me, is a very momentous announcement. It should have time on its own, but it was kind of like they were done together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I think is that part of the question? Would that also be part of a question where that there's a process that should be followed, where you're supposed to have primaries, where she's supposed to compete, get into a ring, and then I book him.
So this is unprecedented because this is the first time that a presidential candidate is withdrawing less than 4 months to the general election. Lyndon Johnson withdrew, but he withdrew in March.
Yeah, so that's the thing. The timeline is so significant. And then we also have to understand that there are a lot of odd things that are happening in this particular election.
Somebody told me about that the Constitution was not followed. I'm still waiting for an answer about the Constitution.
What Constitution was not followed?
No. Let's let Annette answer it, and then we'll figure out where.
So
but you know what I'm talking about.
Everything here is very, very unprecedented. Okay, so and it's not just the Democratic side. It's so easy to focus on that because that's what's happening right now. That's what's happened in less than a week, right? So Sunday will be a week. But even on the Republican side, we had a presumed candidate, and yet they still went through their primary process. And that was interesting because now these people, it's like, okay, what is the motive here? You're vying for this position. But it's very unlikely, it seemed from all of the polling, that any of them were going to surpass, Trump. At one point in time, I thought, maybe these people are competing for the VP position. I don't know. And so that is very unique because Trump didn't actually compete. He didn't do any of the debates.
Yeah.
He didn't. I mean, the only time he addressed people was via Twitter. And that is just not a...
Twitter or Truth Social?
But it was okay.
Truth Social.
So he didn't even do one debate, right?
No, he didn't do any debate. Yeah, no, he didn't.
He did not engage with any of the people who were running against him. And so with that being the case, that is very odd. Is that really due process? Is that, so you could have the same question on the Republican side. Now, when it comes to what's happening with the Democrats, the truth of the matter is most of us don't actually know the nitty-gritty of how these processes are done. It's not... We know what has historically happened. We know what traditionally happens, but there is some nuance there. And because even Biden was a presumed candidate for the ticket until he was officially put on the ballot by the DNC, right? So with that being the case, they both, I don't know. It's a fair assumption that the standing president, because that is what we've done historically, is going to be the nominee for the second term. But it doesn't always happen that way. And it doesn't have to happen that way. And so that's what we're seeing here. So we're seeing history unfold, and we're actually seeing the process happening the way that it was written out to happen. And because, the DNC hasn't happened, this can happen. Now, if it was after, it's not possible.
Now, to quickly interject, when during the swearing, Biden, when Trump did not to hand over, I did some reading, and that's when I came to learn that a lot of things that you see in America are not constitutional. They're not necessarily in law. It's just norms. Like, for example, a president being the presumptive, no, a sitting president being the presumptive nominee. It's not a rule. It's not a law. It's not constitution. It's a norm.
It's the norm.
And even when it comes to parties picking a presidential candidate, I don't think the constitution even mentions political parties.
It doesn't.
It doesn't mention political parties. So it's a political party that it's at their discretion within their own rules on what they want to do, and the political parties can change their own rules in the middle of the game. And that's, I think, what people need to understand, because sometimes people like throwing this word constitution too much. The American Constitution, unlike the Kenyan one, is so thin. It's like, I think, only 4 pages.
It's very easy to read.
Yeah, it's a very easy read. It's like only 4 pages, and it's very loose. So a lot of these things are within, the norms of the party. And when you go back to Lyndon Johnson not wanting to run for re-election back, I think that was in the 68 election, the one that Nixon won, the Democrats went and had what's called an open convention, where the convention is supposed to be where the party delegates select who the candidate will be. And traditional, it's been that way. But over time, the conventions became just a coronation. We already know who the winner is. It's kind of like a coronation, like it's Hillary Clinton or it's X. But traditionally, and in 1968, they had an open, a very ugly convention. And I think the guy who won was called, I think, George McGovern, and he lost to Richard Nixon. The other open convention was when President Carter was, after his first term, he was challenged by JFK's brother, Robert Kennedy. So I meant Bobby Kennedy. So that also became Ted Kennedy.
Ted.
Oh, my bad.
Ted is the name. Yeah, Ted is the name.
68, because Bobby 68.
Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy challenged Jimmy Carter, and it ended up very ugly. And Reagan ended up winning the following election. So I think after those experiences, both parties became gun shy of having, an open convention, because things can turn very ugly. I know the Democrats have about 4,600 delegates, and they are what they call 700 super delegates, whereby the rules are, if, the 4,600 delegates will select who they want. If you get a majority, you become the candidate. If you do not get a majority, then the 700 super delegates are the ones who make a selection. And the super delegates are who's who in the party, the establishment people. So I think that's part of the reason why there's a bit of fear in taking it down to I think it's going to be in Chicago this time, the Democratic Convention. So anyway, maybe you can give us your take on that. That's just a bit of the reading I was doing on why they never want those open conventions where, in Kenya, we have people who are called men in black. I know you might not be familiar with that, but these are people who disrupt elections in a convention.
Like
if let's say Annette is a candidate we want to win, and we realize the way things are going, she's not winning, there are these people who are planted strategically to disrupt everything, throw down all the ballot boxes. So I don't know whether the Democrats have such people.
No, so we are in a time where we have the information. We have polling. We have the numbers. We can see who is leaning what way. The delegates actually meet before the actual event. And so that's part of the support that we're seeing, is that different groups, state by state. So the state of Maryland, they had a call, and they were like, okay, whatever discussion happened, if you're going to be a delegate. And so in the state of Maryland, I remember I think the Senate delegates, the state Senate delegates were the first ones to release a statement of support. And so as that continued to happen, then you start tallying up and seeing, okay, so the numbers are there for her. So assuming, even if it was that open situation, the numbers are indicating that she would be the one who's selected. Okay. And there are not a lot of people who are waiting to see if there's another option because they have declared. So that is a significant thing that we need to understand about how this party is operating currently. And when you are in a time crunch, nobody wants chaos.